Your timer is good. We are live.
All right.
Yo, we are live. I am I am pumped. I know I say I'm excited a lot, but this one is an extra excitement. We are live. Dr. Lebenton, we're talking about immigration talks in this season. And I have on a special guest, and I'm going to blow her up a little bit as far as introduction. This woman is phenomenal. She's a immigration lawyer. She's a friend. I've been trying to get her on for years. She's a dancing lawyer. Oh my goodness. And this conversation is so timely because of what's going on right now. People have questions, they're concerned. And so what better time to have this conversation than now? I'm delighted, I'm honored to have none other than actually Esquire boss, Elizabeth Waffula. You're gonna help me introduce you.
Liz
She is
Wapula.
the power queen. Mm-hmm.
All right. So thank you so much, Tolu,
So
first
thank
of
you
all.
so
It's an
much for
honor to
listening
be
to us
here.
here.
I know they have many, many,
And they
many
have many, many, many.
guests. So I feel privileged
So
and
I
honored
feel privileged and honored
among one of them.
on one of them.
And yes, we've known each other for
And
so
yes, we've known each other for.
long. I also want to
I also want
return
to
the
turn
accolades and
the
say that you're
activities
very,
and
very humble, excellent.
humble, excellent.
I said lawyer,
I said,
doctor.
look, doctor.
And just thank
And just think.
Thank
um,
you. Thank you, sis. I appreciate you.
so to introduce
Appreciate you.
myself,
So to
my name
introduce
is Liz.
myself, my name
Most people know me just as Liz
is just
Wafula.
as Liz.
On social media, I'm
On
known as
social media, I'm known as
and I've been
and
practicing now
I've been
a little
now
over 11
a little
years now,
11 years,
and we specialize in
and we
immigration.
specialize in immigration.
We do a
We
plethora of
do
cases.
a plethora of cases.
We do adjustment
We
of
do
status for
adjustment of
immigration
status.
cases. That's when
That's
someone is
when
a U.S.
someone
citizen or green
a
card
U.S.
holder,
green card holder
and their spouse wants to
and
petition
their
for
spouse
them.
wants to
They're
be
in a loving
in a
relationship.
loving relationship.
We also do the
We
opposite,
also
where
do
the
the
marriage has
opposite,
gone
where
bad or
it's
toxic.
go back
That's
and
allowed.
toxic as well.
And then we also do
And then we also
asylum,
do
although
asylum.
right now we're not taking any
Right now,
asylum.
we're not taking any asylum.
But asylum is when a person
Asylum is when a person
leaves their home country because
leaves
of
their home
something they
country because
cannot
of
easily change about
something they
themselves,
change about themselves,
be their race, their
their
religion,
race, their religion,
their political
their
opinion.
political opinion.
Um,
Um,
so it could be
so
something
it could
like
be something like
female genital
female
mutilation,
genital mutilation,
could
Hmm.
be sexual
could be
orientation.
sexual orientation.
Usually something
Usually,
that's hard to change about yourself,
but
in
to
other
change
words.
it itself, not
Okay.
okay.
It could also be gang
It could
violence,
be
things
gang
like those.
violence.
All right. So we do those as
So
well.
we do those as well.
It's an
Also,
asylum is a
as an
pathway to
asylum
getting a
path
green card.
being a good.
Well, the other thing we also
Well, the
do
other thing we
now,
also do
recently we started taking
recently started taking
last year. So that's our newest
so
case
that's
type.
our newest case type.
E-visa applies where a
Visa
person
applied
do something against
to
their will,
something against their will,
and
and
usually it's in exchange
usually
for the person to obtain some sort of status. Okay. Thank you. That's better, Tolu.
Thank you.
I don't know who fixed that.
I
so
just switched it up. Mhm.
so for TVs, there's many different contexts, but in summary, anyone could quote unquote mistreat a person or abuse a person, and it could result in a T visa. So it could be a spouse, it could be an employer, it could be a friend, it could be someone who trafficked the person on their way to the U.S. But typically, we're looking for a situation where a person has been made to do something against their will, and whatever that thing is, typically a labor or service or something sexual. They do it in exchange for obtaining immigration status or green card or something, or promise to get that. So that's called a trafficking visa, and we do those, and we started doing those as of last year. It's been going great. So that's a summary of what we do and what we're known for. But my name is Val Queen, so obviously our main specialty, or what people know us for,
Mhm.
is our cases.
So what would you say for someone who's watching who's like with the current state of things, are people getting their immigration cases addressed or status changed even in this time? Because I think the word on the street is like, oh, it's very hard, it's almost impossible. What's your take on that?
I mean,
Yes.
yes. So there's always, to be honest with you, there's always someone winning. Okay, there's always someone winning, even in this administration. But right now, there has been a limitation. There was a travel ban that passed earlier last year or mid last year in June. It was extended as of December and went into full effect in on January 1st, 2026. The travel ban affected at least 36 countries. Sorry, 39 countries. Um, some of those, namely, it affected some countries in Asia, of course, Africa, etc., and some other countries. But long story short, if you're on the travel ban, what will happen is a green card may not be issued at this time. The application will still be filed. Okay, USCIS will still accept the application, but they just won't make a decision until the time the travel ban is lifted. So so there's many other immigrants. So anyone else who's not on the list, yes, is definitely get their green cards. And actually, even sometimes people on the list are still getting green cards. I had an interview a few just I think a few weeks ago where we went to interview and the travel ban wasn't mentioned, and this was for a country that was listed on the travel ban. So yes, there's still people winning, and I would say that now is still a good time to file because honestly, I've been practicing now 11 years. Each time we have a new administration, there are changes, and whether the person is a Democrat or Republican, we are seeing the system becoming more strict. So I would say now is always better than tomorrow, and this year is always better than next year. And then this 4 years is always going to be better than the next 4 years in my experience.
Okay. All right. So for the person who's considering this, if they want to adjust to secure their status, what would you say is their first practical step? Do they reach like how do they navigate? Because some people are afraid of if they start the process, then they're exposed,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That they're not in that they're exposed and more likely to be caught by ICE. So there's an
True.
ICE fear.
True.
So what would you say to that?
Yes, I want to balance that. I totally understand that, and that's probably been the case for some people. But when you look at the percentage of people who are helped by starting the process versus those who who are not helped by sitting on the sidelines, you'll realize that those people who started the process are always at an advantage. Why? Because let's think about it. If you're caught by the police, even just for drinking and driving, okay, you shouldn't be drinking and driving, but if you even just for DUI, or even let's make it simpler, for a traffic stop, you are speeding. Okay, I so the police officer asks you for your documents, and then they let's just say they can tell you're an immigrant, maybe by the way you look or talk. They ask you for your immigration documents, then you have now nothing to present. Well, that's the best case for an ICE officer or police officer. You are going straight to jail because you have nothing to show um, what you're doing here in this country. You are basically undocumented. So I'm just basically pointing the picture that it's best always to have something pending because right now the probability of you being caught just on your day to day, just going to work, just because you are speeding is high, and you would have nothing to show. And also, if you have nothing to show, it's easy to get arrested and detained. Then I also want to add, if you've been here less than 2 years and they arrest you and detain you, you have no rights to a hearing. You can be put, in other words, on the next flight back home without a hearing if you've been here less than 2 years. In other words, it's called expedited removal. So you're considered to have no ties to the country. In other words, no rights. You don't even have to pass through an immigration judge. You just can be put on the next flight home.
So for that person who said, okay, I want to start a process, is there something they can do right now to initiate an attempt to have a pending status?
Oh yeah, sure, yes. So yes, definitely contact your nearest immigration lawyer, the person or the an immigration lawyer that you trust. Of course, you can contact us as well. But yes, just contact a lawyer, schedule a consultation, and typically a good immigration lawyer will know how to screen you for all the options you may qualify for. Also, a good immigration lawyer, even if they determine, let's say that you qualify for a case type they don't take, for instance, I don't take U visas. U visas are for anyone who has experienced a crime on U.S. soil. But if I screen you, have a conversation with you, and I determine you qualify for a U visa, I'm likely to tell you, um, hey, I know this other lawyer. Contact this other lawyer and schedule a consultation for a U visa. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. It does. So you can also point them, but you want to do your investigation to make sure you have someone who's able to take your case and can handle your case. So come forward with a good immigration lawyer. Um, okay. Liz, they're hearing a lot about, people are concerned, a lot of concerns about whether they should go for their biometric appointments and their interviews because that may be a place where they're caught.
Hmm.
Is that true?
I've had some horror stories, honestly, but and this is truly the truth. None of our clients have been caught or picked up at a biometrics appointment. Not even one. Knock on wood. And I'm praying and believing that remains that way. So I have heard some scary stories, but from my understanding and from the people I've heard from, these are fellow colleagues, fellow attorneys. Typically, these are people that have some sort of high criminal charges on their records, like
Okay.
something serious on their record, like some serious fraud charges, some serious criminal charges, some theft, some embezzlement, something kind of very serious on your record. Those are the people that happened to. And also, to be honest with you, it kind of happened mostly, like, I would say earlier last year. um so that's what I've heard of, but it hasn't happened to any of my clients, that's for sure.
So, because we don't want to feed fear, of course, we want to be,
Yeah.
practical, and we want to advise accordingly. Of course, we ask that you speak with your own immigration lawyer for legal advice. But it sounds to me that it's most people, as long as you have a good criminal record or background, should
Yes.
be okay, and you have
Yes.
something pending.
I mean,
So this, go ahead.
I'm sorry, some of our clients, to be honest, don't have that kind of record and they haven't been picked up. To be honest, I'm just telling you the ones that I heard of, but there's no real formula. That's what's unsettling about things that the current administration and some things. It's kind of been difficult to give clear immigration advice to people,
Mhm.
or delineated immigration advice, because a lot of rules aren't being followed. But what I can say is that it hasn't happened to any of my clients. What I can say is, if you're scheduled for a biometrics appointment, you have to ask yourself, do I want a work permit? Because you cannot be issued a work permit without that biometrics appointment. Do I want a travel permit? You cannot be issued one without that. Do I want a green card? So any type of immigration benefit usually requires that biometric appointment. So it's just kind of one of those things you ask yourself, is it worth it? And you go. Also, if your lawyer is in the same state as you can go with your lawyer. So that's what uh, we would do, like maybe for a person who's here, but most of our clients are not here, are not in
Okay.
Tennessee. Yeah.
Okay, so when we are addressed in real talk, real life fears, and someone asks you, "Ice come for me," like what do you advise? Like, how do you? I don't know how how would you balance the challenge of what's going on with the need to do the needful to make sure you're in good status and you continue
Yeah.
moving forward in your immigration journey. So, how do you advise people most of the time?
I
Yeah.
tell them it's worth the risk. I tell them it's worth the risk, and I tell them that I think things could only, well, let me find the most positive way of saying this. We don't know who the next president will be. The next president may have even more stringent policies and executive orders. Okay, so we don't really know. And so waiting is absolutely not a strategy. And that's even in terms of just filing fees. Filing fees have doubled almost almost every administration. I think when I first started practicing, I think there were less than 1,000. Then they were raised to 1760. I think during Biden or Obama's time, I can't remember. And then now it's like 3265 for adjustment of status through marriage application, close to $4,000. So the filing fees just kind of keep doubling almost with every administration. So waiting is not a tactic. Also, there were people that were scared like this during Bush administration, during Obama administration, during Biden administration, and now they've been here undocumented 15, 20 years. And now they're thinking, now is when they're thinking of filing their adjustment of status to marriage application or vow, whatever it is they want to file for 20 years later, because they kept thinking things will get better. It never got better. It just got worse. And your fear is something that compounds over time. It doesn't reduce, it just compounds. So my advice is now. Now is the time. File your application. Just make sure it's a strong application. That's the other way you balance it is it a strong application? Like, did you really marry this person for real love? Then you have a good application. File that adjustment of status to marriage application. You know, and the same goes for vow. Did you really marry this person for real love? Was it a real marriage? Yeah. If the answer is yes, then yes, get a good lawyer and file the heck out of that application. You have a good case. So file it. So sometimes what I've learned is what gives people that fear also is maybe some insecurity about the actual application process itself or about the case itself. Because if you're sure about your case, I think you'd want to file it at any time, you
Mm,
know?
mm, okay. So for the person who maybe doesn't have a strong case, I don't know.
Totally, you're getting there. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
because for the person that doesn't have a strong case, is there something to be said? Because I've had to, I do immigration physicals, and I've had to talk to clients who are afraid of this, and I've said things like, are you an upright citizen? Have you added value since you were here?
Yes,
And push more in that. Like, what else could you do as part of your case that
to
my
balance
being here
again.
had upgrade, yeah, to has upgraded. I've added value to this country. I've done this. I've served in this way as a way to bolster their application. Is that me being just very positive, or is
No,
that
I,
is that does that
I
have
think that's
any?
great advice. On top of that, I'll add what helps with the security of your application and you being secure in your case is documenting things well. So I just keep using marriage because that's the most common way of getting a green card. So if you're doing adjustment of status, that's in other words, that's a green card through marriage case. If you're doing a green card through marriage case, you want to have some things together with your spouse, at least a lease together, maybe a joint bank account together. Maybe you don't have a social and you couldn't do it in any of those. So all you could get was like a joint credit card together, a joint Costco card, a joint Sam's Club card, a joint shopping card. You want to have those things together. On top of that, you want to have good affidavits. An affidavit is just a legal term for a detailed letter where a person is affying, testifying to something on your behalf. So you
Mm,
want to have good detailed affidavits from family, friends, neighbors, anybody, you know, that can testify as according to their own knowledge. They have seen you and your spouse together. They have actually heard you and your spouse with their own ears. They can testify to their own knowledge, okay, of what they know of your relationship. Okay, so documenting things is helpful. So even and then we're in social media age, even text messages, emails, and of course social media is great. Okay, but where a lot of people get in trouble is saying we have a real marriage, but you're not even friends on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat. Like you have nothing together, including social media. That's where you put yourself in a questionable light. You
mm,
know,
okay. Do you have any advice for the students who are like, yeah, I'm not trying to get married anytime soon? Any tip?
yeah, yes, keep your status up. Never lose your F1 status. In fact, I say that all the time. But any status you have right now is the time to guard any status that you have, even if it's just a student visa. Keep going to school. Keep go up to a PhD. Get a second PhD, a third PhD, a fourth PhD. Whatever you need to do to keep your F1 student status open until the time you're ready to adjust status. Also, going out of status honestly is not the end of the world. It's just scary, um, because when we file for a green card through application, once it's approved, it does forgive any times of unlawful presence. In other words, it does forgive that overstay. But the reason why I tell people not to go over to become an overstay per se, in other words, when you now no longer have any visa at all and you've stayed past your authorized time on your visa. The reason why I don't like to we advise against, or any immigration law advises against being an overstay, is because once you become an overstay, you close your options. Now it's only marriage that will fix your status. Now an employer can no longer petition for you. Now all these other options that you would have had kind of close out, and only kind of leave maybe possibly marriage as an option. Okay, which is why a lot of people end up going into that, because they feel stuck. So to avoid feeling stuck, just keep your status open and current.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. What are your thoughts on travel? Of course, we know that this is advice. You have to, make your own decision. These are suggestions. So travel, can people still travel safely with a valid travel permit, or are there risks in this current season? What do you like?
Um, yes and no. Uh, I always say that travel permit is issued just for that purpose. It's meant for you to travel. You should definitely usually normally travel with it. But honestly, our policy here at Iamafula, we've stopped advising people to travel. Right now, our policy is to tell people do not travel unless you have an absolute extreme emergency. What do I mean by that? Death of a family member, or your mother or father, which is usually the case, is about to, you feel is about to go, and this is the only chance you'll get to see them alive. So, or you have a child that's in harm's way. Sometimes there's a child left in a home who is raped or something like that. I hate to say that, violated in that way. I, 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 I just always in that situation always say, if I'm the mom, I would think my child's life is more important, and in that kind of situation, I would see you need to go home. So, but outside of those kinds of emergencies, I would say everyone should stay put, unless you have a green card. Is my advice right now.
People are actually afraid to travel locally. So because sometimes you have to show, your ID and things like that. What are your thoughts on the local
I think
travel by
local
air?
is just fine.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So how do you, generally speaking, how do you allay the fears of people in this season? I don't know if you can allay it, but we know that um, fear chokes, fear sabotages focus. How do you advise someone who's pending,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have white paper in hand, but understanding the crippling effects of fear? What would you say are your top three advice for them in this season to be a little more balanced?
So fear, of course, is a mindset issue, and anytime it's mindset, it's a coaching matter. Sometimes I just have multiple sessions, and with a person to get them out of that mind frame. Um, but I'm reminded of the scripture that faith comes by hearing, and hearing of the word of God. And I think fear comes the same way. Fear
Mm,
comes by hearing things, what you see, and usually it's a friend. Somebody has said something to you, and fear will grip you. The other day, someone told me something, not related to immigration, but something about something I care about, and I found myself like immediately after the call, I found myself almost in a little bit of a fear, and I just immediately said, "No, no, no, I'm a child of God. I'll be fine." So it just reminded me how quick fear cripples in. So first, watch what you hear, watch what you listen to. Second, um, if you're a believer, get back in the Word of God. The Word of God is so powerful. Jesus said, "These words I give you, their spirit and their life."
mm,
Reading the Word of God really does build life in you. And then third, prayer. If you're a believer, I'll say that again. Uh, the more time you spend in prayer, and it doesn't have to be 10 hours, 8 hours, 7 hours of prayer. But anytime you feel fear, the more time you spend just in prayer, just talking to God about it, and just releasing, surrendering these burdens to God, you'll see that the less fearful you are. So, fear is often a reflection of how far away we are from God. Because the closer you get, you'll notice your fear will dissipate. I think that's what I'd say. So, and for those that are non-Christians, positive affirmations, I guess, and just make sure you have positive people around you.
I like how you have something for, because the truth is, we're having this conversation because sometimes people say, well, you're not in my shoes, so you don't understand. Fear does not empower you. It doesn't help you discern when to go
Yes,
out and come in. It
yes,
doesn't allow you to move forward. It essentially keeps you busy, stuck.
yes, yes, yes. And I would say, and I'd add fear, like I was trying to tell you earlier, I've really studied this. Fear compounds. It never, it's one of those emotions, it never reduces. It's easy for a person's faith to reduce. But fear, on the other hand, it always, every day you have a fear, it just doubles. So it's better to face your fear now. So I've had clients where I've advised, hey, let's file this now. Your fear is not going to go away. The best way to tackle this thing is to file this application. And thank God they've listened, because when we won, they were like, oh, thank God I didn't fear. Oh, thank God I didn't fear. I was like, yay. Sometimes the best way to tackle your biggest fear is just to go through it.
Wow. You know, it's so interesting. You're the second person saying this to me in the past 7 days. It says, whenever fear shows up, turn into a project.
Yes,
Address it, turn
yes,
into a project.
yes, yes.
Man, I'm so thankful you do what you do and that you're a woman of faith so you can empower people and point them to who is going to help them this season, and who's going to guide them. Because for every challenge on earth on this side of eternity, there's a solution. May not be the one we want, but God has a way out. So I'm excited. So, EM Wafula.
Dr. Tolo, before we leave, you didn't
Oh,
talk about. I wanted to ask you some questions about these immigration physicals. What are some things you think people need to know? What are some
oh,
questions you get asked all the time about immigration physicals? Because we have to do those for
yes.
any green card case.
So, first of all, I tell people that this is not another way to be exposed or potentially be deported. It's
Right.
simply America trying to find out that you're coming in is not bringing any, um, transmissible disease.
Diseases.
That's it. It's just to make sure you're good. It's like a wellness visit that you get before you
Yeah.
come in. And one of the
Make
things
sure
that
you're
I
not
also
bringing anything here that they can't contain.
exactly. So they
Yeah.
want to make sure you're not bringing any communicable disease. And so typically they check for gonorrhea, they check for syphilis, they check for tuberculosis. And now gonorrhea and syphilis are sexually transmitted. We also test for chlamydia too, but they're sexually transmitted. But there's also tuberculosis, which is respiratory. So you cough, it spreads. And so that's reportable to the health department, not for deportation, but for containment. That's it. So I tell people when they come in, relajate, it's not, you're not in trouble. And
Right.
then I also add on, a lot of, my immigrant clients, they don't check their blood pressure, sugar is high, so sometimes I'll tease that in too and have an EKG to check their heart because I'm not sure when next you're going to go for health care because many of them actually don't go in
Yeah.
till, and that's part of the package. They don't go in unless they're really, really sick. So it's a good time for me to catch things too and say, hey, here are lifestyle things you could do. Cut down salt, do fruits and vegetables, and go take a walk sometime to help you
Okay.
bring your blood pressure down. So it's and the forms are provided. USCIS is pretty generous in letting us know what we need to do and how to answer each questions. Labs are done, vaccines as needed. In fact, you know what we do to save costs? We send them to the health department. They can get those shots cheaper. Uh huh. It's cheaper. I mean, I like them to buy it from me, but it's cheaper if they go to the health department because the health department and the vaccine companies have a very discounted rate, so that's fine. But it's not a hard or painful exam. And many of them like, oh, yeah, I was nervous, and I'm like, you didn't need to be. You didn't need to be.
Mm. Thank you so much. So, well, how can people reach you? I mean, you're gonna give me your contact information, so because we have some clients in Texas who probably need medicals.
Wow, it's funny how you turn this. This is good. At least this is really good. So yes, you can reach out to us, www.livingspringmedicals.com. There's a schedule link you could click. You could also call us 817-717-9597. And I have a team member who'll be happy to have you scheduled we wouldn't have Saturday appointments. Don't tell too many people that.
I was asking because I told my clients that I'll be live here, so I don't know. I can't see who's on there, but just in case they need that information.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you turning the tables. This was good, and I put it in the comments too. But for our audience too, who are like, what, you're licensed to take care of clients in Texas? What like, where can we find you, Liz?
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh,
You.
sorry. So just on IG, it's Vowel Queen, one word. VAWAQUEEN. That's also TikTok, Vowel Queen. For YouTube, I think same thing, Vowel Queen. Our Facebook page is down right now, but otherwise, it's just the full name of the law office, which is Law Office um, of Iamofula. Okay, Law
Okay.
Office of Iamofula. So that's it. And I'm
And
actually going live right after this. I normally take questions live on my
okay.
own page. So if anyone wants to come and ask questions, I'll be going live in 15 minutes from now
Okay.
on our
Awesome.
IG.
Okay. Your Instagram. So I've put it there at the Vower Queen, right?
Yes,
Um,
our
at
queen
the
one. Mm-hmm.
at the Vower, so the underscore Vower Queen, right? So you can join her live in a few minutes. She asks us questions. She's very good. She may dance, not sure. And then her website is wafflelaw.com. So please, those of you who are watching, subscribe, share this with people who are going through this to let them know there is hope and there's a way forward in this season. Yeah.
Well, 30 minutes went by so fast. Thank you so much for having me here.
This was so fun. We gotta do this again. We gotta do this again, Liz. Don't wait 3 years on me, okay? Don't wait 3 years. That's not nice, okay? 3 years. But thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being straightforward. Thank you for having options for those who know Jesus and who don't. That's kind of you. And I look forward to having this conversation with you again. So thank you big time. Please show her some love in the comments. Thank her. She's a busy woman. Took me 3 years to get her on.
You're
Hmm.
busier than me.
No comment. No comments, no comments. And as always, if you or anyone you know is looking for an awesome, a thorough, and a compassionate family physician, that we would have conversations on immigration just to help you live long and well, I am she. Please like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube. It's a thank you to us, okay? And we appreciate that. Thank you all for coming. Have a good one. Sis, God bless you, man. I
Thank
love
you.
you.
I
I'll
love
talk
you
to you
too.
soon, okay? All right. Bye, everyone. This was